Okay, at this point we're going to install the Microsoft Desktop Optimization Pack. So I have that on this drive. Under the MSTN folder. And it is a disk image, so I'm going to have to, of course, record this to a, how big is it? Okay, I'm going to need a DVD. So stand by just a sec. Okay, what I'd like to do a little bit is talk about what we're doing here. I am installing the Desktop Optimization Pack, so I want to talk about that a little bit. What it's all about and what does it do? First of all, the Microsoft Desktop Optimization Pack, or mdop as it's called, is a suite of technologies available as a subscription for software assurance customers. So you have to, first of all, belong to the software assurance customer program with Microsoft. mdop helps to improve compatibility and management with the tools such as the Microsoft Application Virtualization, called AppV, or the Microsoft Enterprise Desktop Virtualization, called medv. It reduces software costs through the System Center Desktop Error Monitoring, or DEM, and the Microsoft Diagnostic and Recovery Toolset, called DART. It improves asset management through the Microsoft Asset Inventory Service, or AIS, and it improves policy control through the Advanced Group Policy Management, or AGMP. Now we can, even if we're not a software assurance customer, evaluate the mdop because it's available here for test and evaluation as part of an MSDN or TETNet subscription. So subscribers can then use it. If you are a software assurance subscriber, then you can download this software from the Microsoft Volume Licensing site, MVLS, and you can purchase it. We do have the Enterprise How to Buy page that you can look at on how to use this tool. What we're going to do now, after we install this, is start using the Microsoft Diagnostics and Recovery Toolset, or DART. So I want to talk more about that further. Let's see. And our disk image is done. So we're going to close this and put back in the disk, let it read, and we should then go ahead and install. So stand by just a moment for that. It's reading the CD, or the DVD, I should say. Okay, so we're going to run the launcher. And here it is. The Desktop Optimization Pack, Software Assurance 2010. And we have these tools now. We're going to install a couple of them. I want to install, first of all, DART, as I mentioned before. And we are running here on this computer as a Windows Server 2008 R2 version. So that's what we have right now. So just to say, this is 2008 R2 Enterprise version, and it's activated. So what we're going to do is, this is DART 6.5 for Windows 7 and Windows Server 2008. Notice we also have 6.0, DART 6.0 for Vista and Server 2008 without the R2, and even a DART 5.0 for older systems, especially Windows XP and Windows Server 2003 for those personnel who are still working with those systems. So right now what we're going to do is I'm going to install the 6.5 or the 64-bit installation of Dart. Okay, next to that, I agree with the software license terms, and it's going to go into the Microsoft Diagnostic and Recovery toolset. Now, the typical installation is the most common, but the custom lets us choose which tools we're going to have. A complete requires more disk space, but we can also do that. So just to check our disk space, you can see on this drive, I have 215 gigabytes free. So I do have enough space that I could load all the tools. So I'm going to install the complete. And it's done. And now that it's done, I can get to the ERD, Emergency Repair Disk Commander Boot Media Wizard. Now a little bit about that, because we can talk about this. The Crash Analyzer Wizard we have, the ERD, and the release notes. I want to bring up the release notes for a minute to talk about this. Okay. And what DART is all about. Again, the Diagnostics and Recovery Toolset. That's what DART stands for. For a lot of people, since Windows Vista came out, and subsequent the other operating systems, 2008, Windows 7, they've noticed that the recovery of problems with these systems has advanced quite a bit. And mostly this is due to the Windows imaging format that we have in the installation of these operating systems. We install the system now as a file-based installation, or these systems as a file-based installation, which means that we first load Windows PE, the pre-execution environment, which brings up in RAM a drive that acts just like a disk drive, which is normally the X drive in Windows PE, which means we have access within this mini operating system that is Windows PE, this command prompt looking operating system. We have complete full access to all the actual physical hard drives on the machine. So primarily people install an operating system on the C drive. If there's a problem with that drive, trying to boot up prevents us from doing so. By going into Windows PE, we actually have access now to that C drive, even if it has major problems. We have check disk, which we can run against the drive. We have even the disk part program, which is the new program that replaces fdisk and other functionality of disk, where I can even format the disk, create partitions, delete partitions, do all kinds of stuff. So being able to get to the disk is an important part of Windows PE. In the normal installation world then, I would copy over a WIM file that had all, for example, the install.wim file from the installation DVD of the Vista and above operating systems directly to the hard drive using Windows PE. But what about recovery? Because if we boot up to the installation DVD in Windows Vista, and we set our locale to include keyboard and things like that in language, on the very next screen that comes up where we have the install Windows Vista, there is a small hyperlink in the lower left that says repair this computer. We can do so, of course. We can do this in Server 2008, the exact same way, Server 2008 R2 and Windows 7. That tool is there. What that brings up is a subset of Windows PE called the Windows RE, or Recovery Environment. And the Recovery Environment has quite a few tools in it that lets us do various things to the operating system, especially if it's not working, that's included on the drives we actually have. So again, to bring up this recovery environment, at least in Vista, we would just we would boot to the install DVD, go through the first screen, and then go to the repair this computer. Once there, then we can do all kinds of things to repair it, including loading drivers if we have a particularly unique, for example, disk controller that we need to have the drivers for before we can access the hard drives. we can look at all the various problems that normally occur. For example, the master boot record needs to be reset or something like that with the various tools. We can analyze memory or diagnose memory, see if there's problems with memory locations, physical problems. That can take a while, but we can do it. So we can even fully restore the hard drive if we've done a complete system backup. So many of these functions are very good. They're very useful to us and brings us to a much higher level of repairability and maybe also a higher level of success in the repairing of systems that have problems with them using these tools. Much more so than XP. Now, other things that the Windows RE environment cannot do, of course. And that is the reason we have Dart. So what Dart has in it, as shown on this screen, is a whole bunch of tools. We have the Windows RE tools. We have access to the disk commander, the ERD registry editor, the ERD commander, locksmith, crash analyzer. There's just a whole bunch of tools here. Notice the unsupported platforms that we have for these systems and the minimum hardware requirements. One of the most important ones is this 512 megabytes of RAM. And the reason for this is when we first install Windows PE, which Dart will run off of, part of the Windows RE environment, as I said before, it makes for itself a drive in RAM. So it's got to have at least half a gig to do so. That's the minimum required. More would be better. But again, we can fit it all in 512 and not less than that. So that's what Dart does for us. Let me close up some of these screens. And now, through Dart, as you can see, we have the ERD Commander Boot Media Wizard. So what I need to do is take out first the disk that I made earlier and put this to the side. And I want to make, in this case, an ERD Commander Boot Media disk. And I'm going to say next to this. Okay, that's right. I got to use the startup drive in here. So, before I can do this, let me go ahead and do that. Take out this drive again, or this disk again. And now somewhere in here, I have a Win7 or a Server 2008 R2 disk. Here's one right here I have, which is Windows 7 Ultimate 64-bit. So I'm going to put that in. Okay, and browse to that location. Let's turn off the autoplay. And that's going to be on the E drive. Whoop. Yeah, on the D drive, excuse me. Now, one problem we'll have with this is we will not have the ability, unfortunately, to boot the system and run it in this other operating system that it becomes, Windows PE Plus, and let you see it as I'm making this video. I'm using a product called Camtasia Studio to record this video, but it's got to run on an actual operating system, and I can't run it on the Windows PE. So let me see if I think about this correctly. If I can make an ISO file out of this ERD Commander boot media, then I should be able to bring up a virtual machine and load the ISI file and then demonstrate it further through Camtasia Studio to you. But that will come up as another lesson. Okay, now very importantly, it's telling me all the tools that are available to me right now in this ERD Commander boot disk. So we're going to have computer management, crash analyzer. I want them all. They're all here. And so I'm not going to exclude any tools. Of course, if you're looking at making it smaller, and that is a consideration for you, then obviously you could exclude some tools that you're unlikely to use. What those will be, I cannot tell you. It depends on the issue that you're trying to troubleshoot and fix. In some cases, you might never use the disk commander, but you'll use some kind of file restore activity or a hotfix uninstaller. In other cases, you definitely need to go in and work on the disk itself. So it depends on what you're doing. One particular tool that we have is the disk wipe tool. And this is much more than a format, because a format really just, if you format a drive, it really overwrites the file allocation table. The blocks of data that had your perhaps sensitive or private information on it are still there. And someone with advanced disk editing software might be able to go in and find that. The disk wipe literally wipes the drive. It's even proved by the Department of Defense of the U.S. government. I'm going to say next on that. And it's going to put the debugging tools in this location. That's fine. I'm going to say next. Oh, wait a minute. ERD command debugging tools are not found in C. Okay. Let's try this. Let's download the latest definitions. Let it connect to the internet and do so. So it looks like it's downloading the standalone system sweeper definition files. It says the standalone system sweeper helps protect your system by scanning for malicious and unwanted software. And I'm sure we can all be in favor of that. And let's go ahead. I want to pause the recording here while it's doing this, because this is going to take a while. Okay, so that's finished. Let's click next. And any other, you can add additional device drivers. This is especially useful, as I mentioned before, if you have some different disk controller, storage controller, and it needs a particular device driver, you can add it here. Because I want to use this in a very generic way, that is the ERD Commander boot disk I'm going to make is going to perhaps service a bunch of different systems. I can't say right now which device drivers any of them will need, but if they do, I can include them all here. I'm not going to, so I'm going to say next. And it says the additional files. The files that will be included in the startup image are located in the following directory, and here it is. So it's in the users directory in app data. So we're just going to say next to that. And specify the location where you want to make the startup image. So it's going to be erd65.iso. Very good, because I can burn that. And I can also use it, very importantly, within a virtual machine. So this takes a while as well. I'm going to pause again until it's finished. Okay, now the boot image ISO has been created, and it asks me if I want to burn that to a CD. And my answer to that is yes, so let me now put one in the drive. Give that a second to spin up and be recognized. All right. And notice the list just says this is the actual driver of the type of CD and DVD recorder that I have. And now it will burn the image for me. And again, that takes a few minutes, so I'm going to put this on pause. Okay, so it's finished. And now I have the disc. And I'm going to click finish on this. And that is it. Now, I do want to show you this right here, what I have on the desktop right here. You go to the properties of what it put on the desktop, which I'm probably going to move. And we can see that the file is a disk image file. Now, again, using something like Hyper-V and the virtual machines there, or even Virtual PC, a Virtual Server 2005, R2 Service Pack 1, I can bring the ISO virtually into the, if you will, virtual DVD drive and boot from it onto any virtual machine. And that's what I intend to do in my next presentation, so we can explore how the ERD 6.5 works. Thank you very much. And that ends this first presentation.